Council, May 21st to order. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, again we call on you and ask for your wisdom and your knowledge and your assistance in making and helping us make every decision the best for the citizens of Nashville. Amen. Amen. The first item on our agenda today is public comments. Anybody here have anything to say? No. Except good morning. It's early. The old business, the proposed budget for 26.
Well, did you want to knock out the other things first and then get to the budget?
We can, that'd be fine, if you wish. So you want to go to the proposed amendments?
Yeah.
To chapter 38?
So, okay, chapter 38, we amended a while back to include backflow and cross-connection controls, actually in 2022. And Walter Manning, our employee, is the one that's been in charge of overseeing this and enforcing this. And in reading through that ordinance pretty much on a daily basis, he found some things in it that need to be tweaked a little and some things that could be written a little differently to be a little clearer when he has to explain things to people. And we have Walt with us here this morning. But the first one is on page 6 of the ordinance. The town of Nashville uses BSI, which is Backflow Solution Inc., as a third-party vendor for backflow testing and reporting, and to send notification and letters to customers when backflow tests are due. The next amendment that he's proposing would be on page 7 of the ordinance, section 38, 487 D12. Been questioned on how town of Nashville would handle certification research. After the initial certification, the tester must take recertification classes before 2 years of receiving initial certification, and after the first recertification class, the tester must take a certification class every 3 years. The current ordinance says the tester must certify every 2 years. So this would just change the language in our ordinance to mirror what the actual requirements are. And the testers are employees of plumbing companies. They are the ones that are required for the commercial backflow preventers to come on site and test that customer's backflow preventer or control device to make sure it's working properly. And this just clarifies the certification on that. Next one is page 8, section 38, 489, A3. The ordinance doesn't specifically say anything about residential customers with irrigation sprinkler meters that were connected to the town's water system. This new language clarifies that. So anybody that's got an in-ground sprinkler system will have to have a cross-connection device on it. This clarifies that. It was evidently unclear in our ordinance. Another one on page 8, section 38, 489, A8, needed to clarify how long someone has to have the device installed. And then on page 10, section 38, 491, for existing devices before the ordinance, devices are currently installed prior to the ordinance, devices that were currently installed before the ordinance took place can remain until the device is in need of repair or replacement, at which time the device must be replaced per the current ordinance. Clarification there. Page 11, section 38, 492, 8A. 8A should have been listed as 9. Each number thereafter has been changed to reflect the change. It's just an oversight when we put the ordinance together back in 2022. Page 12, section 38, 492, 24. It removes PVB, which is a pressure vacuum breaker, as an option, and only allows RP, reduced pressure backflow devices. The PVB only protects against back siphonage. Back siphonage is when the water is being sucked from the supply back into the system. Back pressure is water being pushed when the water pressure on the customer side is higher than the pressure on the supply side. And then I've had 3 other changes recommended. Section 38-492D, backflow prevention is required for all service and facilities are not exempt because the age of the facility, according to the statute, there's no such thing as being exempt when it comes to public water public safety. So there's clarification of that. Section 38-495B, it had a typo in it, a misreference. It should be, that reference should have been instead DI. For 38-40-490D should have been 38-490I. And on page 14, section 38-495G2, another typo, the subsection G1 should have been, GL should have been G1.
Thank you. Any questions from the council for Randy concerning this?
What do we do about those people that already have these sprinkler systems on their property?
They're having to have them put in.
Huh?
They're having to have them put in.
I know, but how much time are you gonna give them to comply?
The same as you would anybody else. It
Which is-
depends on their degree of hazard. If it's a high hazard, then it would be 60 days. If it's a low hazard, it'd be 90 days.
Okay, so we'll go back and check everybody that has.
Yeah, I'm working on that now.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
One question on page, forget your page numbers. 37, 44, or 4 or 5, I'm not sure. There's new language in red, but then it's scratched out. So it's just confused about that.
Which page?
Well,
Or which section?
4 or 5 of the packet that you gave us, but
It's on page 4 of the ordinance amendment. You have that, Andy Walt?
it says breweries, and it's all new language in red, but then it's scratched out, so I was confused on. Didn't know if I was mistaken.
Yeah, so instead of it being 8A, A will be number 9. Or should have been number 9.
So I didn't
It was
see
just a typo.
I didn't see the language of breweries. Is it still in there?
Yeah, breweries is number 8.
Standalone, it doesn't have.
Yeah,
It's in the policy. We don't see it here.
yeah. So
But it doesn't have anything beneath it, it just says brewery.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm looking at new language in red and then scratched off, so I'm a little
Yeah.
confused.
So breweries will remain number 8, and then number 9 will be all of this. All of this is up here, as it was under breweries, but it's not. It's a section on its own. Makes sense?
No.
So it was cut from there and pasted down below. It was cut
Yeah.
from just under.
But it's not the same language.
Yeah, buildings, hotels, apartments, no health hazard.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I see it now.
Are there any other questions for Randy
Oh, Walt?
or Walt? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the recommended changes to the town's backflow and cross-connection control ordinance with text amendment ordinance 2025-19?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
All right.
Okay, that's good. Next item on our agenda is connection for the Global Park.
Cody?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So as you know, we hired Stocks Engineering to do the engineering and the bid process for the Glover Park project. They sent the bids out, which we received back on April 24th, that we opened in Town Hall. We did receive 4 bids total, and they were open and read aloud on that day. And the low bidder was BCS Contractors LLC with a base bid of $791,249. So originally we had $632,760 budgeted for this project, less the engineer's expenses. The remaining balance we have is $554,931. So as it was presented in the base bid, if we were to go with that, we would need an additional $236,318 to move forward with the project. In the letter from Stocks, he identified about close to 63,000 in possible deductions. The biggest one of those is replacing the picnic shelter, which we had picked a very nice looking cedar sided building with a stick-built vinyl siding building. Same size, same specs, just the difference in the siding. That changes the price. We can deduct $40,000 by doing that. The additional deductions he found, he had the water service lines for the restroom and the splash pad separate, a 2-inch and a 3-inch. If we combine those into one service, that saves $14,920. And then the other deductions are removing some of the site furnishings, 2 benches and some ADA picnic tables, totaling $1,416 and $6,430 respectively. So we have the letter from Stocks that shows his recommendation. In the resolution, we show that the additional money needed is $196,318 from general fund. That number did not include all of the deductions. So if you take out the water lines and the site furnishings, the amount that we need is actually $173,552. And I will be glad to answer any questions on that.
So what was the purpose in the very beginning of having a 2-inch and a 3-inch on that service line? Why not one and stuff? Why do we think there was need for 2 different lines?
So that's the way Stocks Engineer designed it. They said it's preferable to have 2 connections, but it can be one. And unfortunately, without Kevin here, I can't really explain as to why there would be a difference.
The larger one would be for the splash pad itself, and if that water is allowed just to go in the storm sewer instead of the sanitary, then you wouldn't have any sewer charges on it. And then operating, that'd be a huge benefit down the road, not paying sewer charges on.
So if we do it as one, we're gonna have to pay those sewer charges?
Yeah.
So we're gonna save money up front and then have to
Lose
spend a lot more.
Not on me.
It's all dependent on whether, okay, same thing we talked about the other day as far as metering the locations. If you meter it, yes, that means the general fund will then pay the enterprise fund for the water that they're using, and they will pay sewer on every 1,000 gallons. I personally think it should be separate, because
It's our property. It's
yes,
our property.
it's still our money, but the general fund is gonna take the hit to pay the enterprise fund, because the enterprise.
Possibly take it back.
Maybe.
You gotta know what it is.
Maybe, but we just have to treat
You might well
we have to
scrap
treat the enterprise fund like a business.
I think that they may help us out if we go to them, because we've been good to the county. Look what we've let them use to meet their needs.
Okay, tell them how they reciprocated in this.
Well, they haven't so far, but I think,
It also adds a benefit to what they're trying to do.
exactly.
They're trying to bring in all of these teams of families and things like that, and it's a fun thing for them to do, so if they want it on.
And you know, there's got to be somebody in our town that might want to help us with this project. I just have got to dream and decide who it is, and we go humbly and see if they'll help us. And you know, like out at, the park out there going to Wilson where families bought the benches. I think that might be a good idea for
Picnic
us.
shelters, place things, all of it.
Yeah. And if people will donate and care enough to do things out there, our citizens are great. I know there's some people that want to help us. If not, maybe the Methodist Church might want to get a bit. Maybe the Baptist Church, you know, maybe whatever church you go to. Your church, I'm sure they'd love to get us something. But you see what I'm saying? I think we need to go and look at this, but I think we need to go outside the box and see if we can find some funding.
I think if we're only saving 14,000 and we're gonna have to spend so much more, spend the 14,000 now.
And the handicap, I mean, my suggestion, I would keep the handicap accessible. Other kids.
Well, and those items, we can buy after the fact. We don't necessarily have to have those in the bid. So we can look at pursuing other grant opportunities or purchasing it out of one of our
I
line
think
items
for
later.
sure the tables and the benches can be donations from,
Like the Elks Club or
Organizations.
some organizations that,
Right.
the Masonic Life, there's got to be people that love, I know they love this town that would want to contribute something like that and get a little plaque on it.
And I do want to point out, because Miracle Park was unfortunately way over budget as well when they did it out, and they did do all that fundraising. All of that was headed up by the Rotary Club there. Just pointing that out because it is a huge undertaking to go after all of those donations.
Well, Mayor, I haven't had that dream that you're looking for yet, but, the removing the benches and the picnic tables, I do think there's businesses or citizens in town that would love to donate, toward the purchasing of doing that in there. And I was just concerned about the water thing.
And honestly, I wouldn't mind going before the county commissioners and requesting some help because of how generous we've been to them to meet their expectations and the needs, things they needed to become a better provider for the
it
county.
doesn't just have to be Parks and Rec, travel and tourism, there's so many different
Exactly.
parts of the county that
Right,
benefit from this.
right.
I hope that one day have that dream that you had. But, I said we go for it.
I got a couple questions. So where is it in the budget? So where's the 500 and where's the 190 or 140? I didn't see it. I mean, I could have missed it, but
So it's we budgeted in this fiscal year,
okay.
okay, so it's already there, we budgeted, so it's a project, so it's multi-year, so we're gonna draw down into that project. And except the amendment is we have to add the extra. I personally think that we should just, once it's approved, and when that time comes, because it might not be this year, it might be the next fiscal year, we just do a budget amendment to amend the budget and add the money in. That's my opinion, but
I don't feel like I can do another year.
maybe you don't know when it's gonna be finished, so.
Right.
If you want to see it, look on page 17 of expenses. And under the current FY '25 year, you'll see the $634,026.
Page 17?
You know,
And once the contractor receives the order to proceed, they have 180 calendar days to complete the project. So it should be completed by November, into November.
So we did put in this, that they have time limit to get.
180 days, yes,
And
sir.
what happens after 180 days if they're not completed?
Mhm.
And I asked that question simply because of what we just went through with the fire department.
liquidated damages.
If we're not there in 180 days, how do we regain some of this money back?
So,
Or
well,
not spend it out?
the way the contract reads, if you don't meet substantial completion and you don't have an excuse approved by the architect or the engineer, then those liquidated damages come into place. What happened with the fire station, Oakley Collier gave, approval to the reason or the excuse that Turnkey gave for not meeting that completion date. And some of that had to do with supplies and stuff not coming in on time, and the sewer line having to be rechanged because it didn't gravity flow and things like that. But similar on this one here.
That's a different story.
In the contract documents, there is a clause in there for $500 a day liquidated damages if not finished on time.
And this,
Yes.
But I agree about moving on because, yeah, excuse me, go ahead, I'm sorry.
If I may, I think this is a real important item, and it's been before us for some time. And so, because we want to do right by all of our citizens, even some that we consider the least of these, I think our children deserve something of this nature, because this is the closest thing that we're going to ever get to, I believe, in this current era, as it relates to a pool. A pool gives all children the opportunity for life skill of swimming, something that we all carry through life. our children in Nashville, this community, will not be able to get that for other reasons. And so this is the next best, closest thing that we can offer them. And I just believe that we owe it to the children and their families to make this possible. So with the suggestions that are made, I'm certainly for moving forward.
May I point out two more things?
You certainly may.
So if you'll recall, when we talked about this before, we had designed two different splash pads. The splash pad we wanted, the splash pad we could afford. This is with the one that we could afford. The additional elements, if purchased from BCS, would have been an additional $72,774. However, the splash pad is designed with everything in the ground. These are plug and play elements. So again, that's something that we can easily purchase in the future and put it on the splash pad because everything's in the ground ready to go. So,
Well, I'm just gonna have faith that somewhere we're gonna get enough money to get it just right for our children.
and then the last thing, we are pursuing one change order already because the way that it was designed had all the water from the splash pad and the restroom going into the sewage system. And we feel that we can run the splash pad water to the open ditch that goes across the road there. And it won't cause any issues, and that'll save us sending all that water to Rocky Mountain. So there will be some additional cost to do that just because they're having to run the same pipe twice, essentially that distance. But the savings that we're gonna have by not treating that water is way gonna outweigh it.
That water will go under 58 and head east, not south to, what's his name? Kenny.
Yeah, right, it's on.
There's no way to recycle the water?
No, it's a much more expensive
Well, we choose
system.
not to recycle, use recycle.
It's so expensive.
If you
Might as well
use it,
get
you
full
gotta chlorinate it and have to have a vessel to store it in and pump and dump.
And the other question, I actually talked to Corey earlier, there's been to my attention, I'm not a pickleball player, that there's good courts and bad courts, and we need to make sure that we don't do the bad courts. I don't know any more than what you said. But I've had a conversation with them about making sure that we get the good, because we want people to come to Nashville saying, oh, they're the good courts. But there's area courts that are bad, in my understanding. That's my limited knowledge.
And I'm going to try to explore that a little more after this meeting. I know that as far as, one of the complaints a lot of people have is the distance between courts or the distance from the fence. All of that has been measured and it's going to be to regulation, so we know that's right. The other main difference in courts is whether they are asphalt or if they're concrete. Ours were originally going to be asphalt. That was changed to concrete because it was the only asphalt in the whole project. It added that whole other element and it was going to be more expensive to do that. Where we were already doing concrete work, it made sense just to have it all concrete. On Google searches, it says they're tit for tat. But I'm going to poll some of our pickleball players. We're going to reach out to Wilson, to their new pickleball facility, and just inquire to see if we can figure out what the good courts are compared to the bad courts.
Well, we've come a long way, baby. So you came on board, so.
If you would, how about touch bases with Town of Sanford?
Okay.
They just opened up a brand new splash pad thing. Can you see if they have anything that we can use on?
To knowledge they might.
With knowledge, they can fill us in with.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I think you've done a great job.
And you have.
And as he said, we've come too far for this not to be already in place. So I would make a motion to go ahead and adopt this recommendation and move forward.
With, and back
With
in
the
the separate water
With the
line.
separate water line change.
The $14,920.
Do I hear a second to that
Second.
motion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Now
Paul.
we'll go to our budget, is that correct? Is there another item that I'm,
Nope, that's it.
okay.
So after our last meeting, and we discovered we shorted the fire department tires, gas and oil. We put that 50,000 back in. We also added $4,300 for the municipal elections this fall and put in the $12,000 for the annual lease on the fire station. This increased the general fund balance money needed to balance the budget by $66,300. So it was 147. what we were going to use for fund balance to balance this budget. Now it's $240,477. Still, a majority of that $240,477 is still one-time money. The flock cameras for the police, the 3 new HVAC units, one for rec center, library, and police and fire, the audio video upgrades here for town council chambers, and a couple other things that escape me right offhand. I think that all those combined were right around 190,000. So the difference would be about 50,000 of what we're using for fund balance is not being one-time purchases. In Fund 42, then the Powell Fund, we re-estimated Powell Fund allocations and increased them by $35,000 based upon some intel Tressa got from the state. And then we also we also on page 3 of the revenues, that's where that was increased. And then we increased the expenses to $400,000 using $190,000 of Powell fund balance and putting that additional $35,000 in revenues for the year into sidewalk improvements. So we'll have right around $225,000 for sidewalk improvements for FY26.
That's good.
And with it being that amount, what I'd like to do, instead of putting it out in $40,000 increments, we just talk to Stocks and have them put together a sidewalk program for this. Now, Brian, you want to give and maybe he did I have him give you guys an update of what Public Works is doing as far as inventorying the bad sidewalks
You mentioned
at the last meeting? Well, they're still working on that, so we'll have a good list between Slade with the Downtown Strong Advisory Board, having done what was in the MSD, and our own guys doing the rest of the sidewalk. We'll have a good inventory of where the bad sidewalk is that needs to be replaced.
I know this is all electronic, right? It will be in
Digital.
electronic form. Because we've done this before with spray paint and then.
Well, you
spray
still
paint
have to do
days
that
and-
for
Right,
when,
but we are gonna have like a list that we can
Yes.
now look back to. Okay.
yeah, when the contractors come out and look, they want to see more. Okay. To get an idea of the scope. Although the quantity should give them an idea of the scope. So, the proposed revenues and expenses now then, total expenses are $16,618,082 and are listed and compared with the FY25 ones below. But what you see there for that was the budget we passed in FY25. As you know, we've had a few budget amendments through the fiscal year, so it's a little different than that. But you know, current year budget was passed at $18,078,868, and this one is being proposed at $16,618,082. And the budget does include a $3.75 increase in the town's monthly sanitation fees from $21 a month to $24.74 a month, and a 75-cent increase in recycling fees from $6.50 a month to $7.25. Combined, it's a $4.50 increase, and the town sanitation fees were last increased in July 2021, and the recycling in July 2023. So in the packet, behind the actual layout of numbers is is page 28 of the packet. It shows the proposed sanitation and recycling fees, what they are to what's proposed and the amount of revenue it'll bring in. And then attached to that or behind that are the proposed fee schedules. We are proposing some additional increases in other fees, but they're not enough to actually bother impacting the numbers in the budget with. So, well, what they are, they're highlighted in yellow, the cross connection permit fee, which the council, the last meeting just put into place. Of course, on page 30, then the sanitation recycling fee increase is listed there. Then on page 31, peddler's permits, it's $50. We're proposing you go to $150. We have a handful of those a year, if that. And is DJ doing those at the police station, Sean, or you and Thomasine doing them?
He is, but we're assisting. We're doing the application process, and DJ is doing more of the fingerprint that stuff, and then we're just kind of passing them along.
Okay. Sean's got some proposals for some of the zoning fees. You know, when we do a rezoning, we're very generous in notifying surrounding property owners. You know, by law, we only have to do abutting or adjoining, but we do a 500-foot radius. Well, when you send out that many letters, the $200 fee, in some cases, doesn't cover the cost of mailing out the notices. So Sean and Thomasine are proposing it go from 200 to 350 for text amendments, from 200 to 325. Zoning certification letters from $40 to $60. Special use permit from 300 to 375. And with the conditional rezoning we have now, special use permit applications have literally dropped off to nothing. In conditional rezoning, they're proposing a fee of $400. Zoning certificates for residential of $55 and for commercial of $75. And with the last amendments we did to our unified development ordinance, we now have a fence permit of $50. Where we're thinking that's going to help some of the complaints we get about people putting in fences. So if you have to come in and get a permit for a fence, we're going to explain to you, you got to make sure it's on your own property. Seems elementary, but you'd be surprised how often somebody puts a new fence up and it's not on their own property.
Code enforcement.
So also on subdivision, major preliminary subdivision review, an increase to a flat $250 and $10 per lot. That's with no improvements. With improvements, that would be infrastructure. It's saying, I guess, it's going to $250 flat and $10 per lot. And then for minor subdivisions, Sean's got on here to $100 flat fee and $10 per lot. A minor is, like it says, 5 or fewer. So on Board of Adjustment, variance increase from 200 to 275, appeal and interpretation from 200 to 275. Sean, since you've been here, have we had anybody appeal any of your decisions to the board?
No, sir, we have not had nobody appeal the zone administrator's decision, but we're gonna knock on some that we don't.
So those are the increase in fees. Again, none of them amount to enough money to actually make an adjustment to our proposed budget. They will bring in a little more money, but it all depends.
Sean, how do these compare to other towns around us?
Mayor, I looked at the towns of Red Oak, Scottsburg, Bailey, Spring Hope, City of Rocky Mount, and Nash County. We were far behind on our rates. We weren't charged for conditional rezoning since we have it now. I saw Nash County did charge, and I think they charged because it's so many more meetings you have to do with the developers before we bring it to the planning board and council. And then, like Randy said, with the way postage has gone up, we're sending out over for every rezoning about 74, range of 64 to 74 letters for every rezoning we done since January. That starts to add up a whole lot on the postage budget line item. So we think going up with these prices will bring us to the table where we're in the same figures with Red Oak and Spring Hope. We're not as high as Rocky Mount because they're a city, but we're just right there in that little medium area where we're just good enough where we're competing with Red Oak and them
So this
with our
is
pricing.
fair.
Yes.
Sean, don't beat on the post office too hard, 'cause that's my primary assignment.
Yes, sir. I will not.
Any other questions for Randy?
It was one thing that wasn't highlighted, probably me, but, on the first page of the fee schedule, it says utility deposit up to 200, but then underneath it was utility deposit without social 200. I'm just trying to make it different, cause it really should be more.
Didn't that get, I thought Samantha said it's one 200 and the other one's 250?
Well, it's up here, just wasn't highlighted.
Oh, it
But
just
we're
wasn't
just trying to
highlighted.
make it separate, because if we can get the social, then.
A lot of advantages.
Yeah, just being able to send the debt set
So
off.
do we make it higher to incentivize getting that social?
I I'd say 300, but we put 250 because we were looking at a minimum base bill. But what if somebody's usage is, if their base bill is 160, we lose. Because all we're gonna do is take the deposit and apply it to the final bill. That, and then I personally would like to figure out some incentive or some way to get people to sign up for e-billing. Because as he stated, we spend a lot of money on postage.
The advantage is you don't pay the deposit, right?
Well, yeah, but it's been an epic failure to get a lot of chargebacks. Because they say, hey, I want to sign up for Metro, but then on the backside, we do a lot of work with, you know, put the charges back on the account. They get charged back, basically. So there are some benefits for it, but I think that if we, some towns charge to mail out a paper bill. I think that's too much, but where's the incentive to sign up for e-billing?
You're trying to find a balance.
Yeah, I just don't have an idea. I've been thinking about it, but I just don't know because, you know.
$100 was enough for me, Bill.
Yeah, utility, when I worked for the phone bill place, of course, they gave you a $5 discount if you signed up for e-billing, but I don't see that happening in local government. I mean, I haven't heard of any other municipality that does that, so.
Maybe we could call around to some of the other municipalities and see
I
what
was
they
just trying to
do.
think of something.
You could put it on the back of the bill and remind people about it, couldn't you?
We do, it's on
On
the
the
bill
water
already,
bill?
and when they come in, it's just communication, hey, would you like to sign up for e-billing, because I offer it if they say, I didn't get my bill, but if you sign up for e-billing, you're gonna get the same day we print it, so they do, but it's communicating.
Yeah, and it seems like, you know, unfortunately, the folks who struggle, they're the ones that have the worst time with the post office delivering their bill too.
Yeah, some people don't get that bill until after the 18th, but
They don't get it.
to me, I mean, it's like a credit, I just explained it like a credit card, where your bill still due on the same day every day. Try to emphasize, you know, hey, this is what it is, but.
Well, Tressa, I appreciate your thought process around that, trying to be more progressive and projecting, because the truth be told, all of us around the table are aware that a lot of companies that we all deal with personally have tried to shift and move folks from paper billing. From the bank to credit cards to everything that we do, they want everything pretty much done online if possible.
And our new internet provider, Ripple Fiber,
Mm-hmm.
they don't send bills to anybody.
Yeah.
No paper
Well, that's
bills.
the trend. That's the trend that everybody's moving to now. So I applaud your efforts in trying to project us and move us forward with that. And then we come up with a great incentive.
I guess incentive, because you're right, like if we said you get a certain percentage off, all of a sudden we're gonna be like losing money unless you deduct what the postage would be.
Well, so you want to think about, you have paper, the
Yeah.
envelopes,
Right.
the postage machine, ooh,
Pitney Bowes.
it goes the whole machine, like,
Yeah.
you factor all of it in.
And that other machine the vet does battle with once a month.
The folder machine, we just, I mean,
So what would be the savings for us, like per customer, if they went to electronic billing?
I guess I have to sit down
Because
and.
we could play with that and say, okay, you get X amount back if you do electronic. Or, I know you said charging the full amount might not be feasible, but, you know, an
Right,
extra something.
Well, probably at least 4 times a year, we do $8,000 for postage. And then they just draw down, you know, we expense it out, but, probably, it's at least $3,200. You'll be extending out by the time you add up all the, no, not a year.
Not here.
Month.
Monthly, because you have the postage is 69 cents, I believe, per envelope. So, the more people we can get to sign up automatic billing, like e-billing.
Then you have the time of putting all the envelopes together too, right?
Well, we have a folder machine now, we used to have
Well, we have
Could
the
be
post
doing
cards, but yeah.
So the machine's the reason I get upside down.
and just put it in the stuff.
Paper correct there. The bill's going in the envelope upside down.
It's the upside down envelope, the envelope is like that because of our format. There's some special envelopes.
Okay, we get some non-special, put it in the right side up.
We need
The
to,
regular ones.
Can we get regular
A
envelopes?
little things, a little things.
probably can, we'll just have to reformat the bill and.
Instead of doing
I'm a sticker for all the bills got to be one way, but I do my envelope and I open it up and put it upside down.
It is, it's an upside down envelope. The flap is on the bottom, but we had to get those special envelopes because of the machine.
We like to be unique.
Well, you got that right.
Any questions for,
I'd like us to find a way to charge or discount to get people to do other things, so whatever we can do to make that happen.
I mean, unless you
Like
just
everybody.
charge this in the bill. I mean, if you charge to mail it out, then of course they'll sign up for e-billing to save that $5, but then that just sounds so like, well, why would we do that?
It works.
When you come up with a better idea, you let us know.
Let me go
Under
think
it.
about
And I
it.
know you, I know you can.
And I know that you're right about if we charge $5 a drop it, because in Nashville, we're known for being a different type of community, a different type of place of living. So you're absolutely right there. Again, you're right on trend. And so I appreciate you taking all of the considerations and coming back to us.
any questions for Randy about the budget? Any comments about the budget?
At the last meeting, we talked a little bit about water and sewer rates, you know.
I
Nash,
saw that. yeah.
Rocky Mount is most likely gonna put in an increase. We haven't heard for sure yet, but it's being proposed by staff. And if they do, you know, we got built into this budget, increased water and sewer costs. We haven't touched the rates. We talked a little bit about maybe instead of going 3, 4, 5 years and then having a large rate increase, maybe doing a CPI to our rates every year. So I passed out before the meeting what it would look like if we took our current rates and put the current CPI to it, which is 2.9. We just rounded it up to 3. So our in-town water rate right now is $5 per 1,000 gallons, and that would put a 15-cent increase to it. It'd go to $5.15. The out-of-town is $12 per 1,000. That would put a 36-cent increase to $12.36. The in-town sewer is 11. That would add 33 cents to take it to 11.33. And then the out-of-town is 24. That'd take it to 24.72.
I think that's very fair, and as a citizen, I'd rather have it in increments too. What do you think, Council?
Are you proposing this for this year or next year?
This
We
year?
don't necessarily need it for this year. Now that we got our audit done, Trust is able to send our water and sewer costs and number of customers and all that to, who's gonna do that? That's rate study? Somebody was-
School of government,
School of
it's two
government.
different places out, but at this point, we can send it and then project the numbers out for next year, but I mean, this is a small increase, but we just need to get on track. And that's what we
Yes.
can put that money to.
So I'm just looking at page 28, where we're talking about the sanitation and recycling increases, where we're at 17.86% and 11.54%. So the sheet that you gave us here does smaller increments over time versus having to do a larger jump like this in the future. So are we talking about still adopting this
It definitely.
plus
sanitation.
this
Yeah, we need sanitation as it's
as
proposed.
it's proposed?
And this
and
is
then-
just an idea on the
Right.
water and
I would
sewer.
prefer to have that versus all of a sudden like a $3 jump.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah, if there was any way to put that a little bit lower and incorporate this, that's great, but if you need that right now, then you need it right now.
Well, you know, we're gonna be wiping out the fund for buying, you know, 11, what is it, 311,000?
So we're wiping it out, basically. So
Right.
my thoughts is if we wipe it out, this,
If the truck's 400,000, we wanna replace it every 4 years, we need 100,000. And the sanitation and recycling rates that we have proposed in this budget will be able to do that. It will be able to put 100,000 away above expenses, so that 4 years from now, we should have the
We should
money
have the money voucher.
on hand to do the next garbage truck. But for FY '27, you know, if you wanted to do a CPI on sanitation and recycling fees, we could certainly do that too.
Well, we could, but that, like, this is already going to get us what we need for the
It will, yeah.
truck, so I wouldn't wanna add on to that number, but I think definitely doing it incrementally where we need it.
I think we should stick with the sanitation. I know that it's a bigger number, but I think we should stick with it and then do the CIP plan, get the information from school of government, and then do a 5-year plan and put the items that's needed in over the next 5 years. And then that money goes
See what
in the
that is.
savings, because we are wiping them all out. And just, because the auditor cleaned up a lot of the funds and it's more realistic numbers, I found yesterday that we basically spent money out of a fund and there was really nothing there because the transfers were not being done throughout the year. So, it doesn't hurt the general fund at all, it's in the enterprise fund, but to clean up that fund and get it back to zero, that fund will just go away this fiscal year. So it'll just be a budget movement, but you just have to keep the funds because if we can't spend it out of the fund if it's not needed.
Well, Randy, this for the water rates, that 15 cent, 3% increase for water, is that anticipating Rocky Mount's giving us a new rate on water?
No, the increases that we're expecting from Rocky Mount, we're able to, at this point, it looks like we're able to absorb those once again with the current rates of $5 for 1,000 for water and $11 for sewer.
Okay, so we doing the 15 cent to get us in a better position to buy
Right.
stuff down the road.
So
Replace.
we won't be going in the hole like we've been.
Right.
No, right, because see, recycling, all these other companies that we are paying, they're increasing every year, and we're staying the same, so,
We can't keep doing that.
no, we can't. I mean, it's not, but this plan that Randy has, even if it was without, so that's 3%. If you just do it 3% every year, or whatever extra money, I guess we would have to adopt.
Whatever the CPI is.
Right, we would have to adopt a budget or something in our, ordinance that says anything above this number goes into this fund. And then that's your savings, and then when it's time to purchase something, we do purchase it versus,
Scrambled.
right.
Two hertz.
Yes,
So I
be
have to
proactive.
come up with a- yeah.
Makes sense.
I don't think we're gonna get any pushback, that's just me, and this is working with the customers versus, cause we haven't increased sanitation in years. And then we're about to,
2021.
we won't have anything if we don't increase it and when it's time to purchase another one.
And we surely don't want to borrow.
Well, if you can avoid it, just be proactive is more, it's better than being reactive.
Well, let me ask this, as it relates to marketing, there's a marketing aspect to everything that we do. And so with municipal government, whenever we buy something such as a new fire truck and things of that nature, let's make sure that the marketing is there, meaning let's make sure that on all of our social networks, as well as the traditional newspaper, that there is some type of article that's done so that our citizens see it. It's the reality of transparency. And the local government work, like we're doing it behind the scenes now, and while many will watch it on video or what have you, on YouTube, but the reality is we need enough exposure around it. You know, just like we got Fire Station 2 up, at some point there's gonna be a ribbon cutting. So all the folk who said, wait a minute, you kick the can down the road or this, that, and the other, they get to see the benefits of it.
Yeah.
You get to hear the stories of how many runs they're already making, things of that nature. And I think that's the positive side of local government.
I was thinking about how nice it would be if the chief did a video inside the new firehouse, you know, and put it on our website. Chief,
I think we'd have to go to the court.
and let
we
people
can
see it, or somebody, you know, so they can see the benefit of it, where their money's going.
Well, we did have a ribbon cutting open house for the new rec center, and we're gonna have one for the new fire station. When, have you set a date yet?
So that we just finished getting one of the doors fixed, that wide open, just wanna put a little box there.
And you know, we have yet to swear in our new police chief. formally.
We did.
Coming up January, or June 3rd.
So all of those opportunities will give us the opportunity
Oh, I
to
know. And
promote
make
the
sure we
town.
put it in the paper and
Yeah.
on our website.
Because we do,
You
we
a good
have
job of
that transparency there, and in that transparency, people can see what we're doing, other than just crunching the numbers.
And I think, as well as them seeing what we do, I think they need to see as a body of councilmen that we truly care about the citizens of Nashville. That's our heart, you know, and we aren't trying to put more on them than we do ourselves that live here, but I think they need to see us as a caring body as well as a governing body, you know.
Just like the lady that was here at our last Wednesday, lady was sitting right behind the trust event, had never been to a meeting before, she decided to come, and she said, I had no idea that all this went on. I didn't know what you had to work with, but more citizens need to know that rather than what they see on their bill. Oh, the bill went up, what the heck I need to know this for?
Right.
But if You just don't understand. You just don't understand.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, we
That's so
put a picture of
true.
our new, trash truck and we say, here, better serve you. I mean, whatever the marketing thing is, I think it's a good idea.
And it kind of highlights each department, if you will.
And when we get that new trash truck, because it's gonna have a mechanical arm on it, we're gonna have probably not a whole lot of education, because GFL already does it for recycling. And, the way people put out their recycling cart, I have to put out their garbage cart the same way, so it can be grabbed, hooked, and, if you have it backwards, I don't know, then have to turn it around. And,
When, in this budget, every page, just about every page you turn, the recycling to GFI, not
GFL.
GFI, have we had it, we continue to get complaints for the recycling trucks coming through?
I
Has it died down?
I had an experience. I'm glad you brought it up. I had an experience about 2 weeks ago. I was on my way to pick my son from the high school in Central, and I got behind those trucks just past Key Printing and Birchwood, what's the place? Woodfield. And I followed that truck from that area all the way to the nursery, and then it turned right. And on that truck, true to what customers have been complaining about, is what I experienced. Trash fell from the top of that truck all the way from the area that I got behind it up to the nursery when it turned off. It was debris coming out of that truck. I don't know if there was not a lid on the top, but that debris was coming off. And that was 2:30 on a Wednesday afternoon.
This part, they don't have a lid over top of it.
It's the way they dump their trucks.
Excuse me?
GFL's trucks are from the top, so the automatic picks it up and dumps it over the top, where the ones we're proposing to get dumped into the side.
Gotcha.
So we won't have that
So
issue.
there will be a top on ours.
Yes, sir. Yes, ours dumped into the side and then it pushes it into the back,
Right, okay.
where theirs comes all the way up over the truck, so they're
Yeah.
unaware of what's actually
Yeah.
going in and what isn't.
But they see
But
it.
I was
so
gonna
it's-
say, like, there's no way you're driving down the road, looking in your rear
You
view,
don't see
your
it flying
side
out,
view, that
you
you're
don't
not
see
seeing things flying out behind you. And we've had that conversation.
Hmm.
Right, exactly.
And on the same line, I was on a meeting the other day with the library board, and I was told that they just went by with 11 days without telephone service or internet service here in the library because of VC3. Have we ironed all the kinks out of VC3 yet? And why do we need to increase our payment to them if they ain't give us a good product to start with?
fair questions.
Well, we complain, I complain.
So we are back 100%. They did finish the issue with the internet. I believe we had a power surge on Easter morning. It also caused the internet to go out at Town Hall. Here, the physical firewall that we leased from VC3 went down, and it did take them a couple of days of troubleshooting to figure out that was the issue, and to get us a new one here before they could get it up and running. But everything is back up and working now. I think they had a few minor things that they were still getting connected. Brian or Megan could tell you better, but as far as that build out for here, it should be good to go now. Flip side of that, we are 100% on Ripple at all of our sites too. So we're no longer going through Granite Communications for internet services everywhere, which is a lower price with Ripple now that we're on them for internet, which is good, and it should be faster internet.
Let me ask you this, was that 11 days without service to the library, be it phone and internet, did they give us any kind of a discount on the fees, or did we still pay them like we normally would? Why not?
Because they still working.
Well, it won't work for us.
I said they were working.
Oh, I see.
You understand what I'm saying? We were 11 days and still pay them,
That's 1/3 of the month.
I'm willing,
that's a third of the month.
give them a phone call and say, we need some consideration for the 11 days we were out.
We do.
Now, I will say, and I'm by no means taking up for VC3 because we've had our share of frustrations with them. However, the internet did go out at the fire station, police, town hall on Easter morning. I called them Easter morning and then followed up with the Monday. By Monday at, let's say, noon, they were on site, they had it back up and running. So I did appreciate the quick response there. I don't know why we ran into so many issues here at the library, but that, I do want to give them kudos at least for that part.
Well, that part I do understand, but 11 days is entirely too long.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
So we acknowledge the quick response. However, the caveat will hang around the 1/3 of the month without service at the public library.
Any other comments? Council, what about this? Did y'all want Randy to move forward with the water and sewer rates this year or wait?
Yes, move forward.
Okay.
I move that we move forward.
Yeah, it's a minimum cost.
I'm not a fan of raising prices, but at the same time, I don't want to raise big prices
Right.
2 years from now. I'd rather do little increments.
I don't like
It's more palatable. when you look
Right.
at it.
I think you can, I think you can swallow up this increase a whole lot better than you can 2 years down
We're
the road.
not gonna increase the sanitation and recycling with this right now.
So you're looking at some change here, right? How much of that audio?
Well, 450 for sanitation,
No, I'm talking about for the water rates, because
well,
I think we should keep the sanitation in there.
We'll keep because you have a large increase here already.
Right.
Keep that. And then you wanna do
CPI,
the CPI on top of that?
So
Is
you're
that
looking
what
at
you're
less
proposing,
than
Larry?
$1.50 here, but if, it's something, however, y'all
So
wanna do it,
we're
'cause
looking
y'all-
at two different things here. This one is already included in the budget with a 17% and 11% increase.
Mhm.
And now we have sewer here where it's gonna go another increase.
No, I'm going to the last one, you ran, so,
well, there's two.
it's two.
Okay.
So then, Randy, from
One's
your
$5.
So
perspective,
you wanna do this on top of this, or you wanna do just the water portion of this? And then, like, how did you envision doing this?
So Randy, that was just the idea because City recommend, I'm assuming, because I'm not in your brain, I don't know what you was thinking, but I'm assuming that he was just proposing, this is an idea, and
To
it's,
see.
it's
Right.
minimum, it is, it's little, it's changed, but,
Right.
if we increase it, then we just. we'll just-
Right, and I like the incremental increase, but do we need to do the incremental increase on top of the large increase right now?
Completely up to
It's up to
y'all.
you.
I thought that if we increase sanitation this year, we do the full rate study with school government,
Mhm.
then we put the 5-year in track, which means that ideally, next year you may be looking at a slight increase on
Right.
property tax
Mm-hmm.
and little bit on utilities. That's just, I mean, that's just the idea to think forward versus,
Trying to catch up.
now this year, let's not forget we had the conversation today, like, okay, we have to increase it because things are going up, so.
and it's on the news, if you're looking around surrounding
All towns.
towns and communities, from here to the triangle, you're gonna see this very same dialogue taking place.
So the sanitation, recycling increase is included in what you have for
Right,
budget
right.
numbers.
Right.
The water and sewer is not. It was just what would it look like if we did put a CPI on water and sewer? And this is what it looks like. So
It'll be 3% every year for 5 years.
now this CPI on water and sewer, from what we have projected for revenue and expenses, isn't needed for FY26. But if you guys wanted to consider it and put it in place, you certainly can.
I think so, because, like you said, suppose we go up next year.
Right, so when you can look at the water and sewer rates next year since we already had sanitation this year.
Right.
And then I had a full study from the school government, I let them get them whatever documents they want.
So whatever council thinks.
If we decided to do the, increase in paper bills, can that go into the same fund as everything?
Well, you know, primarily the building is, enterprise,
So it's still in place.
we're just going to. But they spend a lot of money on, I can't think of email the way other than saying, okay, well, there's gonna be a charge if we mail a bill out. And then they say, oh, I don't wanna pay that charge, so I'm gonna sign up for e-bill. And that's how they get their bill. In their bill, there's a link for them to pay their bill right there through the email, so there's benefits behind it, but, I mean, the older generation, they're not.
They would almost be
And it's okay,
penalized
but
then.
most people that come in and sign up for services now, we ask them, do you want to sign up for e-bill, and they sign up, so that's how we're getting a lot of the new people.
The newer and the younger people.
New customers. So do you want to put both in FY '26, or you just want to stay with the sanitation recycling and then let us get the rate study done on the water and sewer, then come back with this idea?
I think I like this idea, I want it incorporated, but if we don't need it this year and we still want to do the study, and then next year we incorporate it. That's
Right.
just me.
And then 5 years out.
Right.
I would adopt
Even
just
if
like
it's
that.
more next year, and it could be.
It could be.
It could be, but I mean, if we can still kind of balance it.
Yeah.
Say, you know, even
I
if
mean,
it's.
what do you recommend? Do you recommend doing it this year or?
I
doing
think
it
that we'll be fine with doing it next year. I think that's my personal opinion.
Want
Because
to
we
do
are
due
doing it.
diligence and then put
Right.
that coming up.
Just give them a little bit at a time, because this sanitation is not, it's not a lot considering what they're getting. To me, I don't live in Nashville, however, they told me $100 per month for them to pick up my trash.
And recycle.
That's not recycling, that's just trash.
That's just trash.
But I live in county, that's not it will be a private company, but we are offering it to all the citizens, so. And if their trash is not picked up, our nice public work employees make exceptions and go back and pick it up, even if they
surely do.
they
They
did
do.
not put it out, because they're not just gonna skip a cane.
They do.
So,
I
that's
don't,
just my opinion.
I don't want to stack both of them. Let us go with the one we already had and then
Yeah, I think go with sanitation
Go with that
recycling
one
now
and go
and
back.
then do your study.
go back next year and start this one for 5 years out.
And then we also do the same thing with the property taxes until we get where we need to be.
I don't want to stack them, but see what we'll get.
Thank you for the forecast. I mean, because really, that's what it is. It's a forecast.
It is.
That keeps your fiscal budget where it needs to be, and it keeps us in a safe place that we can absorb the inflations or the other costs that other vendors will pass on to us, that we pass on to our customers. So thank you, because that's a very important.
It is, and I just want to add that me and Randy work with all the department heads, and I will say that they cut a lot of things out that, would have been nice for them to have, but fund balance couldn't absorb it, so they're gonna do without. And I just think that should be heard, because
No, I agree.
there's not enough money, so.
Well, I brag on all of our department heads, many of them are sitting in here, matter of fact, all of them are sitting here today. I brag on every department that we've got out here, that you guys, in the formulation of this year's budget, you had some needs and you had some wants. Well, our fund did not cover all the wants, but we've got some needs here, like last year, our new chief wasn't chief then, but I believe that investigator was asked for last year.
It was.
And we cut it out, because we didn't have it. But we figured out a way, or Randy figured out a way, to put it in the budget this year. The fire trucks, in the fire station, and the maintenance department with the trucks, parks and rec. Every one of you guys have done a great job. The only one I recognize that is missing is the library. But every one of you have done a great job. And I've been bragging on it already. And when I got this list yesterday, and looked at it last night when I got home, I said, well, let me look and see what it is. And I looked around, I still didn't see what there was a tax increase for the individuals. It still stays,
Yeah, 59 cents per.
and that surprised me. So you and Tressa have done a great job, and you ought to be commended for it.
And I do pray that we'll have enough money next year to give raises to
Right.
the hardworking people, that, in order for us to have retention of all these good people, because they aren't just working, they have to provide for their families, so I hope we can work that out next year since we couldn't this year,
Well,
but,
Mayor, you work on the dream with the county, and I work on the dream for getting money for the employees.
okay, we'll split that out.
She may have
She may have a better dream.
But I would like to I'd like to commend Randy and our finance officer and all the heads of departments, but I am so proud of the council, the way you came in here with good attitude, seeking to do what was best for the citizens. There was no ill will. We worked things out. We compromised. And I am just so proud of each of you, and I want you to know that also.
You're doing a great job.
So it has actually been fun during the budget this year for us. I know it has been for y'all. At this time, is there any other comments, Randy, or anybody? Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
We need to,
Do we need your
that's why we
budget?
need to June.
Yeah, we'll have the public hearing on June 3rd,
We don't
and
approve it.
Lou's got the publication already to the graphic for it to be published in the newspaper, and we'll hold that public hearing at the June 3rd meeting, and
So we don't do the approval of the budget until.
No, not to the public hearing.
Well, let me say this, Mayor. You said it, but I just want to echo it and emphasize it. I certainly concur with your comments that while we're proud of the budget, that the only thing that we really need to remain cognizant of is that we've got to get raises for our departments. And going forward, we're cognizant of that, and we've said it on record. And so moving forward, we certainly want to be able to do that because we appreciate all of our staff and employees, and we know that everybody deserves a living wage. So with that being said, that's my comments.
So did I get a motion to adjourn?
Being no further business, I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye.
Welcome.